Vince Colonnay is alongside Mary Walter.
Good morning, and joining us now, Tom Fitton, the president of Judicial Watch. Tom, welcome back to Mornings on the Mall.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
I wanted to these new Strzok-Page texts that came out. They were obtained exclusively by Fox News. Before we get into what they are, Vincent asked a good question earlier in the show. He said, where are these coming from? Why do we continually have this constant drip, drip, drip of these emails? Where are they coming from? Why didn't we see these before?
Well, my understanding, based on what Fox News has been reporting, is that these are emails that came from the infamous gap that emerged earlier this year, where there were missing text messages, and the IG went and looked for them, and presumably this is some of what he found. But generally speaking, though, one of the reasons that Congress is so outraged about not only the content of the text, but the whole process, is because it is taking so long to get information like this out. Strzok was removed, recall, over a year ago from the Mueller team, and it's taken months and months and months to get basic information. We're suing for all of Lisa Page and Peter Strzok's communication, so it's broader than text messages. And they're all, I think 13,000 documents or so. And they went up to the year 2020 to turn them all over to us. So, we could put a man on the moon in a briefer amount of time.
Than to get documents out of the government.
That's true.
So on this particular round of text messages, there's some interesting information. I want to see how important you think it is. Referenced by Peter Strzok to Lisa Page, that they, quote, think our sisters have begun leaking like mad. Scorned and worried and political, they're kicking into overdrive. This all happened in December of 2016, these references. What do you make of this? Sisters, I'm guessing this is a reference potentially to other agencies, but the notion that there is leaking throughout the government going on that's very political in nature.
Right, and when you're talking about sisters and organizations like the CIA or DOJ or whatever, the leaking at issue was classified. So this was criminal activity that was going on, targeting the Trump team, trying to make Trump look bad. You may recall there were classified leaks of information about unmaskings. Last night, new text messages came out essentially confirming that there were leaks about the nature that there was a FISA warrant targeting Carter Page. The mere existence of a FISA warrant is extremely classified. So when you've got folks leaking that they're in existence, the whole purpose of a FISA warrant is to do it in secret so the guy you're targeting doesn't know what's happening. Well, that was blown out the window. And the same group, the so-called intelligence community that was leaking this in 2017, that there was classified targeting of Carter Page, basically spying on the Trump team, is now telling us that we can't get that information declassified by President Trump.
Which is crazy. Also in these text messages, they talk about, Strzok wrote to Page right after about the sisters leaking that Vince just talked about. We need to talk more about putting C reporting in our submission. They're going to declassify all of it. She replied, I know, but they're going to declassify their stuff. How do we withhold? Will we get extraordinary questions? What we did, what we're doing. Just want to ensure everyone was good with it and has thought through all the implications.
Well, there was pressure, it looks like, internally to let it all out. And the big text that relates to what was going on is Strzok talking about a media leak strategy. Now, his lawyer says, well, that was an anti-media leak strategy, and you can't believe your lying eyes on it. But you can see this extraordinary effort not to declassify things in a legitimate sense, but to leak things. And that's the core issue, especially as it relates to the later emergence of the Mueller special counsel operation. It was founded on an investigation that wasn't geared at getting at the truth, but getting at Donald Trump through these illicit leaks.
Now, Lisa Page, she had a hand in leaking that we're very well aware of, right? I mean, vis-a-vis Andrew McCabe was leaking through her, and that's when he was found guilty of lack of candor for not being forthcoming with the FBI. In fact, lying to the FBI about his relationship with her and the press, right?
Yeah, I think that's a correct recollection. That was about the Clinton, ironically, email investigation or the Clinton Foundation investigations. He was trying to be clear that it wasn't the FBI that was obstructing it, but the Justice Department. What a rat's nest over there.
Yeah. So more, yet again, more evidence. So are we going to see more of these text messages coming out, do you believe? Is it your impression that there is more to come on this Strzok-Page thing?
Yes, as I said, we're getting email messages, judicial watches separately. There's going to be a fight about text messages because these are text messages that are given by to Congress. Congress doesn't know what else is out there, and they don't know what necessarily is being withheld. So there could be more to come for sure.
All right, more with Tom Fitton in just a moment, including the latest on this Mueller investigation and when it might actually finish. Could an end be near? 6:43 on WMAL.
All right, we're joined in studio by Tom Fitton, the president of Judicial Watch. I just think this is just going to become a regular thing that every time we get these Strzok-Page text messages that are somehow released, that because we just found them, we get to talk to Tom, which, no offense, Tom, it's a wonderful thing. But when are we going to finally see something happen here? There was so much evidence, as you said, you can see with your own lying eyes what's going on here. If this were you or me or Vince, we'd already be in jail.
I'd be running. I'd be a fugitive at this point.
Well, yeah, I mean, given his anti-Trump bias and such, there's a Hatch Act that governs the misuse of office to advance political agendas by federal employees. Every federal employee listening knows about the Hatch Act, and if you violate it, you're subject to criminal penalties. And this is a job in the lease for the Office of Special Counsel to investigate and/or prosecute Strzok and anyone else who thought their key job at the FBI was to prevent President Trump's reelection, or once he was office to harass him. And that's, we talked last segment going out about what's happened with the Mueller investigation. This is all just further undermining of the Mueller investigation generally. My view is if you had a regular prosecutor doing an investigation into a high-profile figure, and the cops involved in setting up your investigation and giving you the basis for your investigation hated the guy's guts, and were sending text messages saying that we're going to stop him irrespective of what the evidence was going to show, that prosecution would just die and fizzle out pretty darn quickly.
I'm really struck in all of this by the way the press has handled so much of it, Tom. There's a reason that, I mean, it's just weird. I mean, you think about all of the government officials who've been fired, and it's not because of Trump. Trump fired Comey. Let's be honest. Everybody else is getting canned for a bunch of different reasons related to this investigation. Andrew McCabe, there's been a grand jury's been convened to investigate him, and yet, despite all of that fact pattern, all of these people who've been either punished or who are under investigation, it's the president who's the one who's at fault here. It's the president who's got the conspiracy. It's the president who's doing the wrong things. I don't even understand how the press can square that.
Well, they can square it because they don't like President Trump. And it's not about truth-seeking or government accountability in a traditional sense. It's about getting a political opponent. And that's all well and good in the theater of politics, but when you use and allow to be misused, and you look the other way when it happens, the Justice Department and the FBI, we got a real problem. And all of this is corruption at the FBI and Justice Department, all of which is, as I said, the undergirding of the Mueller investigation, and none of which can be adequately investigated and highlighted, at least internally, because it is about the Mueller investigation, and the President and the White House are, politically speaking, constrained from doing the oversight that is required by the Constitution of the Justice Department and FBI. It's very convenient for those agencies to allow Mueller to go on, because as long as Mueller's going on, they're protected from full accountability.
So we were within 60 days of the election. Is Mueller's investigation interfering in the election now?
Well, it's been interfering in it is the election in many ways for months and months and months. Now, Justice Department regulations, you saw this fight with the IG in the IG report between the Justice Department and the FBI. No overt acts on high-profile political figures within 60 days of the election, and I don't know how that's constraining Mueller, if at all.
Yeah. And it's interesting, and I would ask the dumb question, this has nothing to do with Russian interference in the election. This has everything to do with American interference in the election. Why can't Jeff Sessions get involved?
Well, exactly right. And Mueller's kind of admitting that by kicking even some of these Russia cases over to the Justice Department, these big Russia indictments, including the ones of recently of the Russians in Russia, who supposedly were hacking and doing things like that. He's kicked over to the Justice Department.
Yeah.
I mean, so what do we have him there for?
Well, Tom, I'm glad you're following it really closely. Thank you, Tom Fitton. Appreciate it when you stop by.
Thank you.
You're welcome, guys.
All right. So when you